Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the seventh episode of the Not Your Everyday MMA podcast. My name's Alex Henry, and I'm with Tori Haberl. And last week we covered Mackenzie Dern versus who's Mackenzie Dern fighting?
Jan. Jan, I cannot pronounce the last name. It's a hard one.
Dern versus Jan. Dern versus Jan, which is this weekend. We were ahead of the curve, so go back last week, listen to that podcast, but we're not going to end the streak, Tori. We're not going to just not do a podcast because we're ahead of the
No,
curve. Like the streak is important. So,
1000%.
maybe the listeners, the fans want to know our thoughts on the GOAT conversation. And it's interesting because this is not your everyday MMA. A lot of these fighters we talk about, we really haven't watched most of their careers, or maybe just the ends, or maybe
Yeah.
only fights on Fight Night or like
Yeah.
Fight Pass.
ESPN Plus. Yeah.
Yeah, ESPN Plus and stuff like that, and YouTube. So we only know as much as we've researched, and that's what's kind of cool about Not Your Everyday MMA is it's not like you're hearing the guy like DC who literally fought like the guys that we're about to talk about. Great opinion. It's just a little bit of a different opinion. So
Yeah.
Tori, are you ready to talk about who the GOAT of UFC is?
I am. I'm excited because this is such a hot topic. It's something that really sparks some people up. And back to what you're saying, what I would do to be able to watch Anderson Silva, GSP. I got a little bit of John Jones, but not much. Demetrius Johnson during his prime, but I was 6 years old. I wish I could have watched that and just really experienced their true career while it was in the works. But I'm honored now to have, ESPN Plus, Fight Pass, and everything to go back and watch those fights because you really do get to see how dominant they were and also how much the sport has changed. So it's an interesting
Yeah,
topic. So let's get into it.
100%. So something I want to bring up before we just start name dropping fighters is you mentioned this to me before. You've talked to your TikTok fans about this before. Is it's hard to categorize one individual GOAT. Kind of give your thoughts and your breakdown on that.
1000%. There's so many different fans with so many different ideas of what creates a GOAT. People, Habib, undefeated, blah, blah. And then you have John Jones, most title defenses, most dominant, GSP, just how good of a mixed martial artist he was. Same with Demetrius Johnson. And then Anderson Silva, one of the best strikers. And so when it comes to that, when people always ask me, I'll give one answer today. I think I will finally kind of strap down and pick one. But me and my cousin was really one who showed me this, and he explained it to me. He's like, it's hard to say one GOAT. And I agreed with him. And we always talk about, we're like, John Jones, the most dominant of all time, most title defenses. And just there was never really any competition for him. GSP, Demetrius Johnson, best mixed martial artist of all time. So those men were dominant everywhere, no matter where the fight went. And then we have Anderson Silva, and I would say probably Jose Aldo, the best strikers of all time. And it's so hard to kind of pick one out of that whole group.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and you're 100% right. And the cool thing about UFC is it's still such a new sport. So no matter what we say, there is no clear answer. If
Never.
we agree, if we disagree, if somebody else disagrees with us, there is not a clear GOAT in UFC. And it's kind of just like all sports. You look
It's
at,
all based on opinion.
yeah, you look at football where, there might have been a really good wide receiver or a really good quarterback, but in football, who's the GOAT? Or
Yeah.
basketball, who's the GOAT, LeBron or Jordan, and they played at different time periods. Or you might want to mention maybe a different position like Shaq, who played the
Yeah.
game differently. So it's the same way in MMA, where there were people with greater pros and other
Yeah.
fighters.
Yeah.
So
The
it
sport's been
is,
evolving, so it's harder to pick
yeah,
one.
it's
The
hard.
sport's constantly evolving and changing.
So I think that's what I kind of want to talk about first, and you already hinted at it, is the sport changes, right? So when you look early in the MMA, you got your guys like Royce Gracie.
You have
I
two
I
Ortiz.
don't have my shirt in the background, but Mark Coleman, Chuck Liddell, Matt Hughes, obviously. Look, you mentioned GSP, right? And
Mhm.
I'll touch on GSP in a second.
Yeah.
But When I think of those guys, I think, wow, those are the greats that paved the way. But do I think that either of them in their prime could stick it out with a Khabib or a John Jones?
I think GSP could. I
No, no,
I I
no,
think
no,
yeah.
without GSP, without
Oh,
GSP,
without
without GSP,
GSP.
without GSP. Just those
Got
other
it.
other names I named. Yeah, sure, Mark Coleman, father of
Yeah.
ground and pound, right? Like, great, Gracie with the BJJ,
Yeah.
Matt Hughes, kind of all overall a good
Yeah.
fighter. I don't see them matching up with these guys, and a big reason for that is because in the time that they were in the sport and that way it was evolving back then, you were just kind of good at one thing, maybe two, and then
Yeah.
you just kind of worked on everything else. And you can make the argument for that today, except it's kind of not true either. Like, you don't really make it to the UFC unless you're really, really, really good at that one thing. Like, you kind of have to prove that you're pretty good at everything
Yeah, you have to be well-rounded
to
1000%. I
make
mean,
it.
the only person I can kind of think of is Israel Adesanya with striking, but I mean, he's even a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, his takedown defense is good. He's now kind of getting good everywhere. So it's just you can't really stick to one thing nowadays, especially with these new upcoming mixed martial artists. The younger generation is everywhere. They are good everywhere and they are well versed everywhere. So it's hard to be that person that just has that one skill. With Charles Oliveira, his strike, he used to just rely on his jiu-jitsu. He had to work on his striking, and look how dominant he is now because his striking has
Sure.
evolved. Now he's one of the better strikers in the UFC on top of his amazing, amazing jiu-jitsu. And so you really, really have to be strong everywhere now.
100%. So, with that being said, when it comes to my GOAT conversation, even though Chuck Liddell, my favorite fighter of all time, love Chuck, I'm not mentioning any of these names in the GOAT conversation, except somebody whose name is definitely in the GOAT conversation. You mentioned him, GSP. Um, I mean, 26-2, 13 fight win streak. Uh,
Yeah.
well, something I'll mention is his loss to I believe Matt Hughes, but it could have been Matt Serra, and they have very similar
Both
names.
of them, yeah.
The one loss he shouldn't have lost. He looked off. He's talked about how he shouldn't have lost that fight. I believe it's the Matt Serra fight, if
Yeah.
I'm correct. And he's talked about multiple times how he shouldn't have lost that fight. So, even like eliminating that fight, crazy. He would have been
Yeah.
on over like a close to a 20 fight win streak.
And when you look at his record, he avenged both his losses. I mean, he did lose to Matt Hughes in 2004 and then Matt Serra 2007, both first round finishes, a submission, Matt Hughes with a submission, and then Matt Serra with a knockout. But he avenged them both very dominantly. And so, I mean, that's also what makes a champion is avenging those losses, coming back from those hard times and learning from them. And I mean, GSP, in my opinion, is easier to call the greatest of all time just because of his persona, how much of a hard worker he is, how much dedication he puts into the sport. I mean, you look at him now, he's still training every day, he's still in shape.
Yep.
And I mean, he left on top, which is why I respect him. He didn't stay around too long. He knew when he wanted to come back, prove to everyone he was the best in the world. Then he dipped again. I mean, he's truly a special mixed martial artist and so incredibly well-rounded everywhere in the octagon. I mean, anywhere you went with him was dangerous. And so that's why it's a struggle for me also to I'm like now I'm mixing stuff up in my head, but I mean, GSP's truly, truly, truly a legend in the sport.
Yeah, a big thing with GSP, on top of just being a very likable person, is he never got caught doing drugs. And that's something
Exactly.
that's kind of important in this GOAT conversation with steroids or, other things outside of the octagon, life problems, we'll call them. GSP had none of those,
Yeah.
right? So like that's something that you consider, right? Like that's
Yeah.
you want to look at the whole entire fighter. That's what makes it go. Every single thing outside, inside, mainly inside, but just
For
all
sure.
around. And something about GSP that's just so special to me is this dude left the sport in 2013,
Yeah.
came back in 2017 and beat Bisping, bro. Like
He
that
just
is
left and dipped and
and
was
then
like,
left.
bye.
That's
Yeah.
insane to
Yeah.
me. I
It's
don't
crazy.
think many people could leave the sport that long. I don't care how dominant you are. Like,
Yeah. Five
give it
years. I mean,
give it 2 years, and if
4
Khabib comes
years.
back, I don't know if Khabib would be able to beat somebody at a Michael Bisping level.
Yeah.
Comparing it to the time, whoever that Michael Bisping would be in 2 years from now. I don't know if he could do that, but GSP did. So it's
Yeah.
like it's very impressive. I mean, he won in so many dominant ways. A lot of decisions, submissions, knockouts. Like,
A
bro had
very
it all.
well versed fighter.
Had it all. So yeah, GSP, he's on there. And if anything, he's on the Mount Rushmore.
1000%.
And
Yeah.
that's why I like talking about the Mount Rushmore,
Yeah.
because, like, we both agreed on earlier, it's hard to pick one.
It is. It
That's
is
what we're
really
doing.
hard. Yeah, and I mean, just talking about how well versed he is. I mean, 8-1 with knockouts and 6-1 with submissions. I mean, this, like I said, he's kind of has it all. He has everything, and I mean, he's just so respected. It's hard not to respect him. And I mean, like you said, he might have not had life challenges, and even if he did, he didn't let them get in the way of his career, which also I respect. And so, I mean, he's definitely he's definitely one or two. I mean, I'm just saying that right now. That's kind of blurting it out, but 1000%, I think he's definitely one or two, just because of him and just his life and his career and just everything about him and just how much of a hard worker he is. It's so hard to count him out, even as a number one. So yeah,
No, I 100% agree. It's very hard to count him out. He's got to be in your top 30, right? Like,
yeah, one thousand
no
percent,
matter
yeah,
what your order is, GSP should be in your top 30.
yes,
But that means they're kicking out in my list, right? Like my top 30, which we're getting there. We're getting there. We're building Anderson Silva. And it's hard with Anderson Silva because failed drug test, right? And he's got some losses, right? But
yeah,
like when it comes to striking, dude was unmatched, right?
yeah. I mean, that front kick is insane. And I mean, in terms of coming to talking about Anderson Silva, I think you just have to look at his career as a whole. I mean, what he did in the sport, what he accomplished, 16 fight win streak, 10 title defenses. It's crazy. No one even came close to him. It's just one of those things where he stayed around a little bit too long, and he ended up having to get out because I mean the new generation was coming in, and it's sad, but I don't, in my opinion, I don't think that takes him out of the conversation necessarily. I think you can still look at him and what he did when he
Mm-hmm.
was at his best and how amazing that is and how no one has ever done it and how I don't think anyone's going to come close to doing it again. You had Kamaru Usman coming close, then he just got knocked out by Leon Edwards, 15 fight win streak out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just the things he did in this sport are remarkable and no one could touch him. His head movement was insane. The way he moved around and just the way he threw those limbs at you is just crazy. I mean, his striking was so precise and and like so interesting to watch. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Anderson Silva, I think you just have to look at what he did in the sport during his prime because it's amazing what he did. And I don't think many people could do that.
No, I 100% agree with you. And it's not to completely fault him for not retiring too, because, like, I mean, when UFC saw this dude start to lose, why did they? I mean, they used him with name.
Yeah.
They name valued him, right? Like, he's
Yeah.
got the name,
Yeah.
and he wants to keep fighting. We're not going to tell him no, right? So that does stink. But I do look at it still yet, because he did have the opportunity if he wanted to leave, right? And he didn't. He wanted to keep fighting, and he lost.
He's still
But
fighting to this day.
yeah, still, hey, Jake Paul,
Yeah,
it's coming
he
up.
has it against Jake Paul. I'm just throwing that out there right now. I'm Team Silva.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet. I haven't made my mind up with that. But I'm not a boxing pro either, so I don't know. But yeah, Anderson Silva, man, like, I mean, you touched on so many great things. He is not in my top three though.
Oh,
Not in my top three. So, like, it's just tough that, and I don't know, dude. I think he's one of the he's top five. All these guys I'm gonna talk about are like, you can make the argument that they are the best. Like, you can make
yeah,
the argument that Anderson Silva is the best to ever do it. For me, I'm not saying that. And that's okay. All right. Like,
yeah. And I can kind of agree with you just because of I don't think he was as well versed as these other people on the
Hmm.
list.
Yeah.
I yeah, and that's pretty much it. I just don't think he was as well versed, and he did also have the older generation of fighters. So did GSP, but I mean GSP, like we said, did come back and beat Michael Bisping, the best in the world, with the new generation of fighters. And it's hard. I don't know where I put him yet though. Maybe I will at the end, but that's a difficult one.
Yeah. Do we want to get into Mighty Mouse? We want to get into Mighty
Yes.
Mouse? Talk about
Yes,
Mighty Mouse.
1000%. Mighty Mouse is the most underrated fighter to ever be in the UFC.
I
One of
agree.
the greatest of all times got traded for Ben Askren. For Ben Askren. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like crazy after losing a split decision against Henry Cejudo for the belt.
Mm-hmm.
And he knocked Henry Cejudo out the one before. A rematch was 1000% deserved. I think he still would be ruling to this day if they didn't make that decision. He is one of the best. I like, if not, I would probably put him over GSP being the best mixed martial artist of all time. This man is so, so, so good everywhere. Whatever your skill is, be aware because he's going to match it and maybe even do it better than you do. It's insane. His fight IQ is crazy, off the roof. I mean, 11 title defenses within the UFC, a 13 fight win streak. They almost took out the flyweight division because Demetrius Johnson was so incredibly dominant.
Yeah.
And people forget about him. People forget about him, and I feel bad for the dude. And especially now after he just gained his title back and won championship against Adrian Moraes. How could you not classify? I mean, this man was like just re avenge his belt almost, Now he's a
Yeah.
two-time world champion.
Yeah.
So he now, I mean, he's probably either he's in my top two, 1000%. And so I just think he's that great. It's the little people are like, no, but I mean, you have to look at
Well,
his whole career.
you do. And UFC wants you to forget this guy. This is why
They
he's
do.
not in a lot of GOAT conversations, is because they want you to forget Demetrius, right? I mean, Tori, you're not wrong. He has had a great career. He does have a loss to Dominic Cruz.
He does have
Um,
Dominic Cruz, but let me
in
see.
by decision.
By decision. Yeah.
Um, he lost to Henry by decision as well. So in his UFC days, he lost to some of the best, right? But just as a whole fighter, when it comes to his striking and his capability, just at all, I mean, it's close to none with him, right? Like he
Yeah.
is one of the best. And
Yeah.
then what he's done in one, which in my opinion, I think
It's
is
even tougher
it's
sometimes.
it's like right under UFC. Like I would put it over Bellator and PFL and LFA and
Yeah.
whatever you want, whatever other promotion. One is right there, right? Because when it comes to one, those are the best strikers
In the
that are
game.
that are in UFC. Like if
Yeah.
you're in one, you're the best striker that's not in UFC. So
Yeah.
for him to do what he's done there just goes to show how good his striking really is, right? I have Demetrius top five, like obviously I do, but these next guys we're gonna talk about are the reasons I can't have him in my top three, and I'd probably have
Yeah.
Anderson Silva over
Yeah.
Demetrius too.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with you on that
Also,
one.
also, Demetrius isn't done with his career yet,
He's not done with his career at all. I
so
don't even think
like
he's close.
let him finish, and maybe I'll change my mind.
Yeah. But I mean, talk about that loss that I mean, talk about that loss to Henry Cejudo. I mean, the man had a dominant win against him just a few fights before in 2016.
He did,
And Henry, I mean, it's very much debated that DJ won that fight. It's so debated that DJ won that fight. And for him, it still angers me. For him to get traded for Ben, Mr. Knocked Out in 5 seconds, Askren, for literally one of the greatest of all times, it's insane to me. And I mean, go him for being like, screw you, UFC. Like, I'm going to go move on, do my own thing and dominate
right?
another organization. He's
I
doing
agree.
that. And if he defends his title multiple times, there is no doubt in my mind that he will be the greatest of all time. Like, no doubt. And the greatest, like, number one. I don't know. I loved DJ. I always loved the underdog. I feel
Sure.
bad for the dude. He does not. I feel like he just does not get the credit he deserves.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. He doesn't get the credit that he deserves. All right, let's just get into Khabib. Let's just talk about Khabib Nurmagomedov. 29-0.
Oh,
Probably only ever lost two, arguably three rounds in his entire career. Um, yeah, maybe he missed weight a couple times early in his career. Another guy who never did drugs. Well, he's never got caught doing drugs,
yeah.
and he didn't, right? Like he didn't
No,
drink. He didn't.
there's no way. Yeah.
He yeah, he didn't. I'm not trying to say he did. Um, and every here's my thing. I'll start this time. When it comes to Khabib, people always want to say he didn't fight a lot of talent. Like they're like, the talent Khabib fought, it wasn't all there. I think he fought really good talent and he just made it look so easy. And that just goes to show how dominant he is. Justin Gaethje was like arguably peak Justin Gaethje when he beat Justin Gaethje. Dustin, Connor. I mean, like Edson Barboza, that was like a peak Edson Barboza. RDA. He has fought some pretty solid names in his career. And for him, the other thing that's just so crazy for Khabib with me is what he's gonna do. You know his plan.
Yeah.
He's going to wrestle you. Wrestling's the easiest part of MMA to try to avoid, right? Like you work on your sprawl, you work on your clinch, and you try not to wrestle. Like that's why there's such thing as strikers that are so good at striking. Israel Adesanya, and he
Yeah.
usually doesn't have to wrestle. He's got good takedown defense. Jose Aldo, good takedown defense, right? It's not. I mean, it's hard. Don't get me wrong, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like Khabib, it didn't matter, bro. Like he literally, people knew what he was going to do, and he beat him anyway. Never did anything wrong in his career. For me, Khabib's got to be top three. I put, I put him in my top three.
No way. Really? Oh,
Yes. I probably put him over GSP, so I'd probably GSP Khabib Nurmagomedov.
no way. No way. I'm gonna
Definitely
have
over
to
definitely
I'm
over Demetrius Johnson. Let's
no way. Oh my gosh. No, absolutely no
talk
way.
about it. Here's your side. Here, let me hear
Yeah.
you out. Let me hear you
Okay.
out.
First of all, I'm not saying people think that I like hate Habib. I was literally the biggest Habib fan when I first got into MMA. I was so dedicated. I was like, Habib, like, like he's like he's amazing. This man was unstoppable. He left too
Literally, like
early.
he literally never got stopped.
He left too early. Charles Oliveira has beat almost every single person that with the name value that he has beat quicker than he has.
Facts.
Habib, you have to look at it. He is, I believe, 29-0. Look at how many fights outside of the UFC. I mean, he had I think, I don't know, like 15, 16 fights outside of the UFC. And yeah, they're great competition. They're not UFC caliber.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really start facing tough competition till RDA. Wins by 3-round decision. And then he has Michael Johnson, third round submission. Edson Barboza, Alaquinta, which he won his title off of short term. So that's also like when he won his title. Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje.
That was it. Yeah, three title
Yeah.
defenses in his
Yeah.
entire career.
And okay, and then we have I'm not even saying this is like when I get compared because and then you have Charles Oliveira who beat Justin Gaethje round 1, Dustin
Mm-hmm.
Poirier round 3, Michael Chandler round 2, which I think Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor kind of go hand in hand in their records. Like they're both as equally as dangerous. They kind of give Conor might be a little bit more technical, but they're both very dangerous. You have Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee, Jared Gordon, Jim Miller. I mean, there's so Habib was amazing. He was unstoppable. He left too soon. He left too soon. That's simply the answer. To be considered the GOAT, you have to you have to prove how good you are. You have to face a variety. I mean, and you look at some of the fighters in his title defenses, he never really fought a grappler. He never really fought a heavy wrestler, Justin Gaethje, but Justin Gaethje never even uses his wrestling. We never see it. And so, I mean, I don't, I just, this is me. I don't think he fought that level of competition for long enough to prove he was the greatest of all time. Because you look at John Jones, 13 title defenses. That's like two different generations of MMA. GSP completely swept the welterweight division, 9 title defenses. Demetrius Johnson, like I said before, division almost got cut because of how many fighters he fought within that division. Silva 10, even Aldo 7, and Amanda Nunes even sweeped out. It's just he wasn't there long enough. Should have, could have, would have for Khabib. And that's what my case is that we don't know. We don't know.
Sure.
And so
29,
that's my
29 and 0 isn't good enough.
no, it's not. Because you look at his level of competition, and yes, he did. You look at who he fought. Yes, he did fight the
Just
best
all
in the
by
world.
wrestling. 29 and 0, just all by wrestling isn't good enough for your
I
top
don't
three,
even know if
Tori.
I don't even think he's in my top 5. I don't. I don't think so. I mean, it's just you're looking at their career as a whole, right? And if he comes back and wins the title and defends it a couple times, yes. But you look at these people with such, even John Jones posted it the other day, 13 title defenses compared to 13 fights in the UFC.
Okay, yeah, so let's talk about John Jones.
That's the biggest thing.
So for me, yeah, could be 29 fight run, right? That's the best 29 fight run I've ever seen. But you basketball fan, Tori? You familiar with any basketball a little bit, maybe
I played
not?
basketball for about a month in 3rd grade and changed
There
all
you
my
go.
socials to b-ball Tory.
There you
So
go.
people think I do, but I don't really I don't know about basketball.
So when I talk about basketball goat, right? And if you don't know basketball goats, guys, I'm sorry, but I'll try to do my best. I'll make it short. It's LeBron or Jordan. That's
Yeah.
always what it is. Jordan's big case, 6 finals that he won. 6-6 in the finals. He won
Yeah.
6 finals in a row. But when you talk about LeBron James, my goat, Askren boy, he did it for so much longer. And yeah, he might not have as many titles. Yeah, he has some losses. But how he's been able to be great for so long is what makes him the GOAT in basketball. Do you
1000%.
see what I'm trying to say here,
I
Tori?
do.
When you
Yes.
look at Khabib, yeah, 29 and 0 is impressive. Only 3 title defenses, not real great. Not I would have liked to see more. I mean, to go off of what you were saying, you said nothing wrong. He did retire too early, but nonetheless, he walked away from the sport when he wanted to, right?
Yeah.
When you look at John Jones, dude went off. Champ
Yeah.
at 23 years old. He is the most accomplished, best resume in MMA history. Tori, how many title defenses does he have?
This man has 13 title defenses,
13.
2011 to 2020. Crazy.
Versus some dogs. Like, he, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't even know what to say.
I
I
mean,
think
yeah.
John Jones is the GOAT. The argument is he did drugs. Like he got caught doing the broids.
Yeah.
Just like Anderson Silva
Yeah.
got caught, right? So that's why I have Anderson out. But it's like when you put it aside, right? It's not even close. So like back to my basketball analogy, yeah, LeBron's lost some finals, but when you look at his stats and you look at what he's been able to do for so long, I can't just pretend I can't just
Yeah.
cancel the whole dude's resume.
Yeah. It's always hard to look at them, especially when they did the things John Jones did, because I mean, it does make people be like, well, you're kind of a crappy person, dude. Like, like, how can we trust you? How can we trust you did this right? Blah, blah. But I mean, if like when you're a fan, you like I always say this, you just have to separate it. You do have to separate fighter and fighter's life. And I mean, Dominic Reyes, Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, Chael Sonnen, I mean, Rashard Evans, Vitor Belfort, Alexander Gustafsson, Glover Teixeira, Daniel Cormier. I mean, St. Pro. I always forget how to say it. St. Pro, blah, 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 and Daniel Cormier twice, and Alexander Gustafsson. It's just, it's crazy. This man ran through every generation
All of
of
them.
MMA
All of them.
and beat all of them.
All of them. As the champ.
Yeah, it's
Like this for my Khabib fans though. Um John Jones has shown weakness in his career. His fight with Dominic Reyes, it was close. Thiago Santos, really, really close. Like, really, really close. Alexander, it was close for a while, right?
yeah,
John Jones has showed weakness. when I look at a guy like Khabib, and this is why it's so hard for me, bro has never shown any weakness. He just went on a 29 fight win streak without any weakness. Tori, I hate to
Yeah,
say it, and I agree with you so much. I do. But Charles has been rocked
he has.
like
He has.
multiple times in like
Yeah.
his most recent fights. This
But
dude, Khabib, what has he shown?
you have to look at the amount of people Charles Oliveira and John Jones have fought. You have to look at it like that. I
No,
mean,
I
he
agree, and
showed
I agree.
weaknesses because every single time he fought the best, the number one right behind him in the world. Every single one of his harder fights, they were title defenses. They were against the number one contender for the belt. And that's why it was closer,
No,
but he still came out
facts,
the best.
facts, facts.
And
I was
that's
just
all.
saying, I was just saying it for my Khabib fans. Tori, that's all. I was just saying, I was just making a point for conversation.
It's all right. I get attacked by the Habib fans. I get
um,
brutalized.
um, what was I about to say? Holy crap! To your point, if Charles can beat Islam, he's
That would be
better than
insane.
he's better than Khabib. Yeah, I will always say like Khabib is the best in his weight class of all time.
He is. He's the
Even
lightweight
if
goat 1000%.
yeah, but like if Charles can beat Islam, a guy that's supposed to be unbeatable, who stylistically is a challenge for him. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
He's got to be there, right? But like we're not talking about him. He's not go conversation yet. He's real close. He's real close, but he ain't
Maybe
there
like
yet.
yeah,
I give
a
him
little bit more.
I give him a while, and I don't
Yeah.
like you, Charles, but whatever. You can come in, I guess. I can't deny greatness,
You
right? Like
can't. Yeah.
I can't deny the stats, and that's just kind of going back to John Jones. Like you can't deny these stats, Tori. What he was able to do for so long, like you said, ran through pretty much 2/3 of the UFC evolution of how it's evolved. Like,
Yeah. It's crazy. It's insane. I mean, just looking at everything he's done within the sport, this man is the greatest of all time. He
and
is.
and if he comes back
Oh,
at
heavyweight John
heavyweight
Jones.
and destroys at heavyweight, it should be clear, right? Like it should be
Yeah.
clear. Like
Oh, and if
if
he does
he,
it the right way as well.
yeah, if he comes back clean in all aspects of his life and can get some wins at heavyweight, I mean, I can't take a GSP Khabib
Yeah.
Demetrius Johnson fan seriously. I
Yeah.
can't because that's
Yeah.
gonna be insane if it happens, right? But that's
Yeah.
an if. But even without that if, I still have him at the go as the goat.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's insane what he did. I mean, for me, I'm just this just throwing out here as I'm just looking at it again. I know it's not going to be within the UFC, but if DJ does happen to defend his belt 3 or 4 more times, he'll be at 14 title defenses in general. I mean, actually no, he won't be
Yeah,
at 14 title, not consecutively,
right.
but you know what I mean. But like I don't know together. And so I'm
That's
excited.
still
I'm
pretty
excited for
big.
John Jones to come back. I am counting down the days, and I want to see how he is at heavyweight. I mean, it's been so long, and I mean, like I said, hopefully he does it clean the right way. I it took me a while when I was a fan at the beginning. I was like, John Jones isn't the GOAT. Blah, blah, blah. I was pissed at him literally because of like kind of how crappy of a person he was. And then I settled down and I'm like, you just have
Sure.
to look at what he's done within the sport. It's insane. No one's done it. I mean, just so insanely dominant for so long. And he never really like stopped, I guess. I mean, he just said he was going up to heavyweight. It's been taking him a while because man probably had to gain like 50 pounds. But I
Right.
mean, it's insane. It's crazy what he's done. And he is the number one greatest of all time.
Do you have anything to say to the DC fans? Because there's people that think DC is up in the GOAT conversation.
Look at the fight with John Jones. That's all I have to say. I
Look,
mean, I'm a big fan of DC. I watch DC and RC every week. One of my like he's my favorite commentator, probably that's a fighter. He got yeah, yeah.
I mean, Ohio boys on top again. Look at him versus Stipe.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say versus Stipe. Man, not even saying he's like not one of the greatest, but I don't think he's in conversation for top 5 or top 3.
So
Top 10.
okay, so Yeah, top 10. What would you say, kind of on the spot, male UFC GOAT list? Give me a top whatever you
I'm
can give me.
okay.
Like, keep it under five.
I'm gonna go number one, John Jones, number two, Mighty Mouse, three, GSP, four, probably Silva, and then five, Habib.
Okay, we're similar and different, right? So number one, John Jones. Number two, I got Khabib. Sorry, gotta have him there. Um, number three, GSP. Number four, Anderson Silva, and number five, Demetrius. So wait, all I did was
Same people, just mixed around a
I
little
just
bit.
switched
You flip flopped. Yeah, you flip flopped.
Nurmagomedov and
Yeah,
Demetrius.
yeah,
But that'd be my GOAT list. So let
yeah,
us know in the comments like who you think the GOAT is, if there's any points we missed, if there's a
yeah,
fighter we didn't say that you're real passionate. If you're like, oh, I watched Randy Couture fight and he was unstoppable. Like if you're
yeah.
that, then go
And
ahead, let us know.
I can't believe I missed this. We're talking Amanda Nunes. I can't believe
But no, I was gonna get
yeah.
into it.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk about the female GOATs, right? Because you talk about the GOAT of MMA just in general. If you put Amanda Nunes versus John Jones, probably gonna die. Like she'll probably die.
Yeah. But yeah, I was like,
Um,
yeah, I was like, yeah.
but let's separate it, right? And make it fair. And that's why the UFC has different divisions for
Yeah.
female and male. Um, Amanda Nunes, is that your female GOAT?
Yeah. Amanda Nunes for sure. Just because of how dominant she was. She did just have a hiccup against Juliana Pena, but she came back and you just saw again how insanely dominant this woman is. She knocked out Chris Cyborg. I think the biggest fight to really classify would be a fight against Kayla Harrison in PFL. But this girl, she went through everyone and she's still going through everyone. I don't even think there's really any conversation. You have Ronda Rousey, but you look at how Amanda dismantled Ronda Rousey, and then 7 title defenses. She's the first 2-time double champ
Right.
in the women's, and we always forget she is a double champ, even though 145 is kind of like, she still is a double champ. She still has that name. She still fought at 145, earned that belt, and defended it. And she did have a 12-fight win streak. This woman, I think, in just all mixed martial arts, if I know it's like the GOATs, like if you put this against this, but obviously you can't put a woman against a
Sure.
man.
Sure.
There's
Sure.
a
Sure.
reason. There's a reason. There's a woman's
So on the
MMA.
Mount Rushmore, you're putting Amanda Nunes.
Mount Rushmore. I'm looking at my list. I don't know. 7 title defenses compared to Jones 13.
Also, Mount
No.
Rushmore doesn't. I don't know, but
Yeah, she's top. She's probably she. You know what? I'm going to piss. Okay, I don't. This just came to my head. I'm not even. I don't mean to make anyone bad, but I would probably put her at number 5, and then put Habib at number 6.
dude, you are wild. You are wild.
I believe in what I. That's see. There's
You
different. That's the
you
reason there's different
genuinely
opinions.
you genuinely think that Amanda Nunes has a better career than
She
Khabib
was more
Nurmagomedov.
dominant and went
She lost
through the
to
whole
Juliana
division.
Pena.
Okay, and she avenged it
Khabib never
right away.
lost.
Habib never lost, but also again, look how long Amanda fought and against the people she fought against, the amount of title defenses she had. She defended it. I'm not even saying, I'm just saying that's me. That's me.
Yeah.
It's I look at her record, I look at what she's done in the sport. Habib's done a lot in the sport. That's just not my taste on what I think. I don't necessarily look at numbers. I look at what they've done and who they've beat and what they've accomplished. Numbers, don't really mean much. They could.
No.
Obviously, when you lose, you lose, but you could always avenge it. You can avenge it and come back even better. And so that's why, yeah. I'm getting brutalized, but I like Habib. Habib was so incredibly dominant. If he stayed around, I didn't see anyone
say you really
yeah,
like him.
no, I like Habib. I have a Habib shirt, guys. I promise, it's in my closet. But this man was so dominant for when he was here. My biggest argument is he just left too soon. He just didn't face.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and so amazing fighter, such a great guy. I still like him a lot. I still watch his old fights. I respect him so much. I just needed to see more of him for me to think he's one of the greatest of all time.
I mean, it's how we feel currently with guys like Hamza and guys like Yuri Prohashka. Yes, they are
Yeah.
great, but I don't know where I put them on my like pound for pound current
You just
because
haven't seen enough.
I need to see more out of those guys.
Yeah.
That would be like if Yuri retired tomorrow or he beats Glover again and then beats somebody else and then retires.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about Yuri, right? Like I don't know
Yeah.
yet. I that is difficult. So I do agree with you. But my take on Amanda Nunes, she is the GOAT. Somebody who didn't mention that I would compare, I think is closer, is Valentina Shevchenko. I
Yeah.
think Valentina Shevchenko's got to be up there, and I think it's close.
It
The
is.
Pena loss obviously helps Shevchenko more.
Yeah. But
Um,
then also the two losses to Amanda,
mhm.
which were very close too.
They were,
They
they
were
were.
very close. They were, yeah.
I mean, it's just, and you look at competition, holy crap. Like,
Run through.
Amanda Nunes has literally beat, I mean, I'm just looking at the names. I'm not gonna read them. Just
Yeah. I
if
mean,
you
yeah.
in your head as a listener right now think of the greatest like female fighters of all time, and Amanda Nunes has beat them.
And I think Amanda Nunes might be like in there with John Jones for most dominant, meaning she ran through competition. Like, no
Yes,
big deal. Like,
yes,
some of these people, like, they were tough. They were hard wins, but they still got the W at the end of the day. Amanda and Valentina, no. Just
right.
easy. I mean, other than Valentina's last fight, obviously Amanda Nunes, but I'm just talking about their career in general. Title defenses, oh, someone new literally ended the exact same way. Literally not of the same caliber, any of the competition. It's insane. These two are, yeah, they're probably
And
some of the most dominant fighters of all time.
I don't see Nunes losing anytime soon either. Like when
Me
she lost to
neither.
Pena, I was like a little worried. I kind of was. I'm
Yeah.
like, does she not have it anymore? Because there was a time where you just lose it, right?
Yeah.
But then she came back and literally destroyed her. And
Just
listen,
mantled.
here's my unpopular opinion. Maybe somebody can get mad at me in the comments because you'll probably get it. But like Juliana Pena did not even look good in that fight for me. Like I don't equivalate surviving a fight with doing good. Yes, her
Yeah.
toughness showed. It showed how tough she was. But
Yeah.
had like she literally got destroyed,
It was a coin
Tori.
flip. Yeah. I mean,
Like
we're talking about the first or the second fight.
the second
Oh, the
fight.
second?
No, the
Yeah,
first fight,
no.
Juliana looked
Second fight, there were
super
different
dominant.
levels.
In that
Yeah.
second fight, like I can only get Pena toughness. Like, yeah, she looked tough, and that was it. Like
Yeah.
her fighting looked bad, and it's not because she's a bad fighter. It's because Amanda Nunes was so dominant. Like it
Yeah.
just was so hard for like me to watch that fight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, so I do have Amanda up there. I would probably, oh gosh, I haven't thought hard enough about this. I would probably go Amanda, Shevchenko, and then it's like literally a three-way tie for Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey, and Cyborg.
Yeah. Cyborg, I think I mean, she just made her boxing debut. Cyborg is also, she's also been extremely dominant, not in the UFC, also have positive drug tests. Cyborg is amazing though. I mean, that girl's made something else. You
Yeah,
walk around, she's been in she trains where I live.
it's
I
cool.
started downtown when I was littler before I like my someone was like, "Oh, that's Cyborg." And I was like, "This girl's huge. Like she is built and freaky."
Right.
And I mean, just the fact that Amanda also just mantled, it's crazy. And that's why I want to see the super fight between Amanda and Kayla Harrison just to see who is the best because Kayla Harrison's insanely dominant in PFL. No
Yeah.
one's come close. She is a 155er though, so and Amanda
Pretty sure
is like
she's an
one.
Ohio girl too. Ohio people on
Yeah,
top. Gotta love the Ohio people.
that's crazy. I know.
um,
Dominating.
I think she is. I could be 100% wrong, but yeah, I would love to see that too. I'd also love to have her on our podcast. We should try to get her on.
Kayla Harrison.
Yeah,
I'm
that'd be
down.
sick. She's
I'll
so cool.
email.
She's
We'll
so cool.
email. Yeah.
Um, well, hey Tori, that was I like that. I think this is fun, different kind of episode, and I think we should do more. So if people
Yeah.
like videos like this, we will do more. We love making videos. So like
Yeah.
we love our podcast, we love our breakdowns, our fight predictions, pound for pound, top fives, but like this is fun too. So I really enjoyed it. Any final thoughts, Tori? Give me your final breakdown on just GOAT, greatest of all time.
Everyone has different opinions on what makes it great. That's it. Everyone
Oh,
has different opinions, and
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's a great close. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I'll say it in the end. There is not a clear GOAT in UFC. And if you think there's a clear GOAT, you're in the wrong because
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take another 10 years for me to be able to be like, okay, maybe there's a clear GOAT now.
You know
Like,
who's the GOAT? Prime Connor.
dude, facts, bro. You know who's a GOAT? Prime Cody Garbrandt, dude. If Cody Garbrandt didn't, if TJ Dillashaw didn't do drugs, Cody Garbrandt would be the greatest of
He
all
would be on top. I'm sorry, I thought that was funny just because everyone's
Dude,
arguing. But
CM
Prime
Punk,
Connor.
CM Punk
Oh,
before
he's
he
up there.
fought in the UFC is the GOAT of MMA. He looked so good in his training footage. Yeah.
Oh, CM Punk the train, the gym goat, the training goat.
Yeah.
Dude, that man is awesome. Anyways,
No, I
sorry, I
gotta
just had to
love
say
him. Gotta love him.
that.
But yeah, no, that's it. That's episode 7. We are gonna be back on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. There's a little hiccup. I think I figured it out. Should have it figured out by this video. For our audio only listeners, make sure to check out Chris Duncan interview this Friday. We got Elise Reed coming on, and she is so awesome. We both
She's
love her,
amazing.
Tori.
Yeah,
She's great.
the best. Yeah,
She's literally so awesome. She is the GOAT of people we've had on our podcast.
she is for sure. She's awesome.
Love you though, Chris Duncan too. You're very funny. We love looking at your butt. If you haven't watched the last video, Chris Duncan shows his butt. So there you go. But that is gonna wrap it up for episode 7 of this special GOAT episode of the Not Your Everyday MMA podcast. My name's Alex Henry, and I was with
Tori Haverl.
and we are signing off. See you guys.